Hey guys, welcome to another video, Purple Political Talk here. And in today's video, we're going to be looking at the 2020 presidential election and one of the latest forecasts by the OurProgress Forecast. And look how Joe Biden is surging during this election in the final home stretch of the election, where we're seeing Joe Biden perform very, very well nationwide, and there are many things that are coming to this point. At this point, we could say the biggest thing is some of the latest Breonna Taylor case that really has been affecting, as well as the Supreme Court nomination. All that process is also affecting the election in more ways than one. So we're going to look at this forecast and show the data of where Joe Biden has started to surge in, in the polling data and other data the forecast takes into account. And also look, what are the realistic pathways for Donald Trump in this election? So before we get started, please remember to like, subscribe, and turn on post notifications to be up to date with our latest content. So let's get started. So at this point, nationwide, we're seeing a forecast that currently has Biden with an 86% chance of victory, of winning the Electoral College by the 270 votes necessary, compared to Donald Trump's 13.7%. At this point, they categorize Joe Biden's very likely to win the Electoral College. In other words, Joe Biden is very likely to become the next president of the United States. Now, the question is, how is this happening? What states are they categorizing according to this forecast for Joe Biden? And please keep in mind that our progress tends to lean a little bit more Democratic in a lot of cases. So again, give or take, remember a margin of error of around 2 to 4% when you see this. Okay, so generally speaking, one of the biggest areas we're seeing solidly for Biden according to this forecast, and actually reflects the margins they have of victory, reflects the polling data. We have Joe Biden winning by 7.5%. They're expecting in Minnesota. In Wisconsin, plus 6.1%. Michigan, plus 8%. And Pennsylvania, plus 5.2%. Remember, Donald Trump must win at least one or two of these Rust Belt states, depending on which one he wins, to win the election. Without the Rust Belt, Donald Trump will not be able to win. That is one of the biggest characterizations that we're seeing from the OurProgress Forecast. And the margins that Joe Biden is carrying these states, at least pre-election with the forecast, polling data, all these different things, we're currently seeing him have a huge advantage in the Midwest, which is truly going to be what decides this election. If Donald Trump loses Texas, it's over. So at this point in time, the Rust Belt is what matters. And I think, for example, Donald Trump, if he loses like any of the other states, he's done for. However, in the Rust Belt, it's going to be very interesting to see what he can do. And at this point in time, we're seeing a phenomenon where he is behind in a lot of states that he needs to lead in to win the election. And for Joe Biden, this is an extremely good sign because he's ahead by likely margins in a lot of these seats, at least according to this forecast, which if we look at polling data and all those different things, I think that could tell us that he's a clear favorite. And Joe Biden truly has surged. There was like a period of 2 weeks, maybe like 2 or 3 weeks ago, which you're going to see on the graph, where Donald Trump started surging a little bit. His odds definitely went up for the election. However, ever since, we saw a very big effect of Donald Trump coming back down. Again, in part, it was a SCOTUS nomination, which is truly going to be an issue that a lot of Americans might put on the ballot. Although COVID-19 and the response to the economy is going to be the biggest issue. Going and looking at some other key states, they currently have Donald Trump winning in Texas plus 0.3%. This shows us the path the Republican Party is in. They're not in the best position when it comes to the data before the election. Again, some of this data was wrong in 2016, and of course, you will never have perfect data, especially when it comes to politics. However, the data we do have is very worrisome for the Republicans. Florida, Biden plus 1.6. They have Biden leading in Georgia. If this truly happens, Donald Trump is done for again. The path to the presidency narrowed down. He's leading by a point in North Carolina. Donald Trump's actually narrowly leading in Ohio, which is interesting. At this point in time, they project the state of Georgia voting to the left of Ohio. We haven't seen that happen in a long time. And in the state of Iowa, Trump again, narrowly leading. Overall, this map looks very, very, very worrisome for the Trump campaign. Biden has strong numbers, and at this point, he definitely is the clear favorite. So now let's take a look at kind of the numbers of this map. So currently, they have the popular vote, Joe Biden winning by a pretty healthy margin of around maybe 8 to 9%, however you look at it, or more like 8 to 7%, with Joe Biden carrying around 72 million votes, or almost 73 million, and Donald Trump 62.5 million. So those are, again, for the popular vote, that's strong numbers for Biden. But again, keep in mind the popular vote is just an indicator of what's happening nationwide. At this point in time, like if you win the popular vote, congratulations, that doesn't guarantee you anything. Because again, look at 2016. So although it depends on the margin, because in 2016 it wasn't the margin for the popular vote, it was like 2%. Here it's 6%. So that's a bigger indicator, and probably that means, or that indicates with these projections, that Biden might be in for a victory. And just looking at the electoral map, not even without toss-ups, Joe Biden is still winning 289 to 125 without toss-ups. That's with toss-ups, with a bunch of states not filled in. That shows us that huge advantage Joe Biden has coming into this election. And without toss-ups, they currently have the electoral map at 351 electoral votes to 187. So here we're gonna see now the how Joe Biden and his chances at the presidency, I mean, have always been pretty high and constant. I think there was like a good period of time where Donald Trump was pretty much consistently, he was like narrowly going down. Then Black Lives Matter movement and I guess the COVID-19 response started to kick in. That really affected him. We saw a period about like where he started growing a little bit. He went up and down a couple points. But ever since, I mean, this election stayed pretty constant. And I think at this point in time, it's interesting because Donald Trump truly has something that we see from very little politicians. That's the last minute factor. We see Donald Trump, he performed very well last minute in 2016. That's truly what won him the race. Last minute, he was able to adapt. He was able to campaign in all these very innovative ways, which truly helped him win the election. And when it looks at vote percentages, it's always been pretty low for Donald Trump. Now, here's going to show us the electoral vote distribution, I mean, by who's going to win with the map without toss-ups, and it also gives us the margins. We're seeing very tight margins for President Trump in some of these swing states that he truly should be winning by 3 to 5%. He's only carrying them by less than 1%. So I guess those numbers are very, very, very worrisome. And I think this map looks a little odd, I guess, because, I mean, we haven't seen before where a state like Arizona or a state like Georgia has voted to the left of a state like Ohio. This is the first time in like modern political history that something like this has happened, and it's actually very, very interesting, and it just shows the future of our country. The Midwest is increasingly going to become more Republican, as minorities in this area are starting to decrease and move to other areas, as well as like some of the college-educated voters are moving to the Sun Belt, and that's one big trend that we're seeing. The big influx of college-educated voters in the Sun Belt, especially in areas like Georgia, Arizona, in Texas, North Carolina, that along with some of the demographical changes happening in the state with higher minority turnout, that is truly what is impacting these states for the Democrats. And overall, that's something that we must take into account. Third-party votes distribution, they expect the biggest state for third-party votes is going to be the state of Utah with around 7%. Other than that, I mean, everything else they expect to be pretty little when it comes to the popular vote for the third parties. Because again, this election is not so much two candidates that are very disliked. It's more of whether you agree or disagree with what Donald Trump has done as president. It's a referendum on Trump. Do you want Trump for another 4 years or not? Compared to something like 2016, which really was an election of which candidate you kind of trust a little more when it comes to the politics in the country. Last thing we're going to look at during this video is looking at the popular votes and where each party will get their popular votes. So one big trend that we're seeing is that the Republicans are going to get a big part of the popular vote. They do get from middle-sized states. Examples, states like maybe Indiana or Michigan or some of these states, they're going to get some votes from there. The Democrats have a very big base when it comes to getting their huge states, and that's where they're always constantly winning the popular vote because they have states like California, like Texas, which are increasing, Florida, Michigan, Pennsylvania, New York. all these key states, they're winning or very close to winning. So that's millions of votes in it of itself. And of course, you're going to have the smaller states, which, I mean, at this point in time, it's going to give them some votes. Like, the Republicans also have their smaller states. So overall, this map shows us a couple different things. One, Joe Biden is heavily favored to win the election. And at this point in time for the Trump campaign, there's very little things, that they could do. It's not over yet. However, the pathways for Donald Trump are closing up, which I'm going to be doing a video on that later today. And I think it's very important to analyze the fact that Biden is the clear favorite. And why is he the clear favorite? Well, I guess it's just demographics and some voters changing their mind on Trump. So guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. If so, please give it a huge thumbs up, like, subscribe, and turn on post notifications to be up to date with our latest content. Hope you enjoyed the video, and goodbye.